And we are live. And somehow I feel like this is like when you, they're like volunteer and everyone steps backwards and you're standing there. Everyone muted as soon as we went live. So clearly I'm doing the intro. So this is our roundtable. We do this every Saturday morning. We get together to say what our project is or what we've done on our project. Everyone's probably pretty versed on our projects. Maybe not mine because it changes every week. But the wiki election and reason score, I think, are fairly concrete things that people can get their heads around. Yeah, so welcome to the roundtable. Who wants to actually start the roundtable?
I can go ahead and start. So yeah, project, I guess we should do a short spiel each time. Our project is Reason Score. It's a collaborative decision-making tool that's based on evidence rather than opinion. So instead of voting, you add facts. So it's still kind of... So this last week, I've spent a lot of time on it now that I've quit my job and working on it full-time. Actually like 60 hours which it just seems crazy. A couple times I woke up at 3 a.m. thinking about it, worked on it. And so I'm making a lot of progress, but I'm having to redo the math again because I'm figuring some things out. It's, since I'm doing something no one's ever really done before, it's not like I can write a spec and code it. I have to figure it out as I go and experiment. So that's what I've been up to. I guess I said last time I was working on some visualizations, way to show where the debate is and stuff. So I'm going to keep working on that. And then this coming week, I don't know what I'm going to do. I try and finalize the math and get it to where I want to be able to show how each fact impacts the whole debate. Right now, it's kind of abstract, and you have to think it through. Okay, that's true, and then it's here, and so I want to make it more intuitive. So once I have the numbers, then I can work on the user experience. So yeah, that's my update.
Cool. Thanks, Bentley. I guess I'll go next. So Adriel with wiki election here. Wiki election is not very dissimilar to Reason Score. It is meant to be an information platform centered around science, politics, and news. And similar to Reason Score, it's based on evidence, in this case, but with an emphasis on sort of a library of experts that would review the evidence, and then you can compare their reviews to what we know about them, how skilled they are, any conflicts of interest, that kind of thing. Last Saturday, I did a tour of the expected features for the part for politics with Susan Koch, and it went quite well. So I will be updating some of the content and sort of, I guess, making some improvements based on that feedback. If you want to add, Matus, go ahead.
Hi.
Hey. Right, so I did the live stream. I updated the content. I'm also working on wireframes because unlike Bentley, I'm not a programmer, so I'm going to have to hire one. And so I'm working on the specs so that I can actually give that to someone to start coding an early version of it. There's something else that I was going to say, but I'm forgetting, so we'll just call it there.
All right, would you like to go? Bentley's already gone. I haven't gone yet. I can go either. I'll go, and then you can have a moment to get into the room.
Just run in.
Yeah, throw you in the deep end. So I am Jubilee, part of Together Tech, which is this, as well as Solution Raising, where we have an hour-long conversation generating ideas we could actually implement now with 10,000 people and $100,000. And then also this newer project, which is this 5 questions, which I've been talking to a lot of people about, which is becoming kind of my version of the religion that's not a religion, that answering these 5 questions is in no way, I don't need you to answer them my way. It's about how you answer them, and just answering them themselves is beneficial to yourself and society. So this last week, I have held the solution raising on Wednesdays that I do live at 8:30 in the morning. We did it on materials and packaging. This week, we're going to be doing it on the meta crisis, just how all the crises are intertwined and how if you fix one, the other ones break, and like how you actually deal with that Eric wanted to talk about, and it's definitely up my alley. And then the 5 questions I'm just answering. I do my 8:30 broadcast before this, and I'm just answering those 5 questions, which are like, who am I? Who are my people? What is my purpose? What do I need? And the 5th question that was added last week is, what am I ready to let go of? And which can be in those other 4. And so that is what I'm up to. And although I don't think Adriel and Bentley did it this time, my ask, what I would love to universe to give me or us during this hour is what I have for the last few weeks, which is people to co-create a process with, to go from idea, a problem through solution to actually creating it into the world, and what that can look like in our current world. And then that process is iterative and of course keeps improving. So people who that's their jam, who they want to have conversations about conversations about the system and the participation itself, and how that can be fun and easy for the individual and the world powerfully. So that is my update.
Okay, so my update is I am Maciuś on Facebook, and I've been busy with these past few days the new group called Mapping. And we had, and sorry about yesterday and the overlap, I think they didn't know that this meeting is happening at exactly the same time, so it just happened. It was second meeting of this kind. It was a continuation of the meeting from Thursday, and it was about creating, well, initially I expected narrow scope of how to create a tool that maps relations and entities in game B space, which is what I am after. But it turned out that it was much, much broader than this. And we discussed like everything, education, economics, and technical side of it, which is what's the benefit of 3D space and how 3D space and visualization is better than just 2 dimensions. And possibly 4 dimensions is even better because you have the timeline and you can see how things change in time, not only in space. And how to create that and what needs to go inside, and generally, yeah. Yesterday's meeting took 3 hours and something, the first meeting as well. So it's like 6 hours of recording in total. Hunter, who was the instigator of this, promised to post it somewhere, and I'm not sure if it happened, but it surely will. And it was very interesting, and it is going to happen again next week, hopefully. So, yeah. And myself, I'm busy creating something very apart from that first project I worked on, which was meeting scheduler, which got to a certain point, and then I got distracted, and then I got back to something older that I was trying to do because of being inspired by all the other people who want to do the same thing, which is basically to create a tool to, hello? A tool to map stuff. And I am no different, so I create my own version of it, which at some point I am totally happy to show and be critiqued for what it is and why it's not something better. And yes, that's basically me.
Great. So I don't know if Raymond's going to come back in or not, but we could probably go ahead and so the format we kind of discussed with this was that we do our little intros, and then someone takes the hot seat and we, try and help them with any issues they have or anything they want to do. Does anyone have a driving desire to be on the hot seat this week? Anyone have any needs?
I just can't think of what topic I would be in the hot seat for. So
yeah. I'm totally down with anyone being in the hot seat, but if anyone has ideas on how I find people to work through the process with, I would also be okay with being in the hot seat, because anyone that can help me with that is or other people. Yeah.
So that ask is more than just building an audience. That's specifically just getting people who want to participate in those sessions on video.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Particularly people who, just like we are concentrated on like creating the tech itself and like our own projects and doing that, and we've been meeting for this process. Really, it's like people who want to have the conversation about the process, so it's not all on me as far as like the solution racing. I'm fine with the hour-long conversation we're doing at the same time. People show up, they show up, we have the conversation. If not, I don't know what's going to happen. But yeah, finding 2 or 3 other people who want to have a weekly conversation on process. How do we go from creating, what could a process look like with 10,000 people that is doable right now, right? That's probably going to look like a show or a voting system, something that is participatory, but not this participatory, right? Like a tiny group to do this and then other people to watch it, or like the Zoom, like what those different concentric circles are, right? Like the 10,000 contributing to money. How many of those people want to be the conversation and be more intimately involved? How many of those people want to do the actual work and volunteer and collect the data and implement? How many of those people want to be like, full-time job or something? But like people who want to just have that conversation, just a conversation.
Let me add Raymond here. So if I'm understanding right, you're wanting, I just had this, completely lost that train of thought. Never mind.
People. Where do I find people? How do I find people? Where do I find people? Right now, it's a Facebook group and an hour-long conversations, 8:30 to 9:30 on Wednesday, which is the solution raising itself. And I would like to have another one, like another week at 8:30 in the morning, because it seems to take one of the other days of the week to meet and have, hey, how do we actually move this forward? How do we have a solution raising on solution raising? And I would love people who want to continually be involved, right? Like this is their thing too. But even if it's just like with the solution raising, one-off people to have a solution raising on solution raising.
Yeah. I think that'd be great to tackle that. But maybe since Raymond joined us, we should let him. I don't know, Raymond, if you know the format on doing a little intro. Do you want me to let you know what that is, or?
Yeah, please. Sorry, I'm not up to speed on that.
And you definitely don't have to participate. So, but if you want to, it follows the kind of standard mastermind hot seat format. So everyone comes on, gives a big, quick intro on what their project is, since we're doing this live on video, that people might, so they have some context, and then kind of what you've done last week, and then kind of what you want to do next week on your project, kind of as accountability. And then we'll do someone as a hot seat, which is a person that everyone would focus on for the rest of the meeting. And that's just a loose format. We don't have to stick to it. So if you want to kind of share what you're working on, then we'd be happy to have you do that.
Okay, thanks. I'm working on the meta-iest of the meta-e of protocols, right? So we talked about solution building for solution building. I used a different word, but it was great. That's really, I was on the Holochain core dev team. Anyone familiar with Holochain on this call?
Yeah.
So I stumbled into that because that's what I needed to build what I want to build, which I've ultimately called protocol.love. And it is basically the encouragement of vulnerable transparency in all aspects of our social coordination, and interpersonal, sure, to the extent that you embody vulnerable transparency in your interpersonal and your way of being. That's all fueling us all to be in better relationships socioeconomically. So protocol.love just kind of answers the question: what would we want to know about organizations doing work in the world? What are all the questions that we want to have answers to live, real time, for full transparency? And then proposes a protocol on what the format, the Holochain protocol means, by which that could be recorded on distributed ledger technology for all posterity. And something I've been working on for, 3 or 4 or 5 years, depending on how you look at the various levels of ramping up. But when I tried to build things on Ethereum smart contracts Ethereum smart contracts in 2014, I realized that we have scalability issues there. So I ended up finding Holochain, and they asked me to join the core dev team. So I did that, and that proved to be a very amazing experience to work with some really, really smart people, and get to participate in the ICO, which I can in theory, right, I'm supposed to be able to fund this whole thing, provide the mechanism for everybody to take on accountabilities, work out of their house, do things what really feels good, the ikagi, if you will say, or where all the things are in alignment, something you love doing, something the world needs, something that you're good at, and something that you can get paid for. If everybody can find that in the world, that's my dream world I want to live in. It's what I want for myself. The thing is, I've left. I'm a game A reject, and I've been working with mostly game A rejects for a long time. Meaning either game A rejected me, or I rejected game A, or both, pretty consistently through my whole life. And I'm about as old as you can be to, I think, experience something like that, and still, but I have had the opportunity to be in tech, so it's always been easy to find some way to get by. But it's good to have found my way into groups like this, where there's a lot of more academic, scientific, stable, consistent minds that haven't been like really traumatized by game A so much. I think it's a good environment. I'm excited to be moving into those fields of when I talk about this stuff. I don't know if I was supposed to have a time limit, but I'm trying to wrap up. So last week, I'm really in team building mode right now. The budget is low because Holochain was supposed to launch like a year and a half ago, and I was supposed to get access to the rest of my funding. We are way, way, way behind schedule. I can talk about lots of details around that. I'm excited. What's that?
I think we just had a bit of echo. Go ahead
cool.
And finish up.
But the rest is coming. The rest of the investment I made through my participation on the team, it should be paid out soon, as when Holo launches. And so I'm really in team building mode. Really to putting together primarily a consulting agency. It's all gifted right now, and for the foreseeable future, I want it to be where we can just teach people how to set up your organizations in a game B structure. Protocol.love proposes all the means by which, from the day you start talking about doing something seriously, here's how you start those conversations, here's how you have those conversations, here's how you align all the dynamics around power and money and all the things that destroy organizations eventually if those things aren't made clear, or at least feelings get hurt and people get tossed aside, who contributed and end up with nothing, things like that. All these patterns, I've been involved in tech startups and activist startups for 15 years or so. So I see the same power and money dynamics destroy amazing project after amazing project, or not destroy the project, but the project will ultimately have some level of success. But there's people who contributed in big ways that got left along the highway. So that's what I want to see. And then protocol.love is the URL. And also, I did a sit. It's called Vipassana, which is a form of Vipassana. That was very enlightening for me, a really life-changing experience. And coming out of that, I really channeled a whole new approach to talking about this in terms of love versus control. And I have an article on Medium that's been getting pretty. I was surprised at the distribution it got, and I would love to share that with you guys too, to see some of the philosophy behind all this. Thank you. I hope that didn't take too long, but I appreciate what this group is doing. Look forward to learning more about all your projects and seeing how we get to play.
That's good. And do you have any requests that we can help you with right now?
Well, sure. I mean, just generally getting up to speed and giving feedback is really it. I mean, I'm looking for, people read the stuff and I get lots of positive kudos, but nobody says, I haven't had anybody criticize anything yet. So I
that's
know,
rare.
yeah. So I know, like, well, this isn't going to work because of this, or, so I've got a lot of detailed plans laid out. Yes.
So definitely share that in the Facebook group and ask for criticism. And I'm sure several of us on here would be happy to see if we can provide any value to you and feedback.
That's my jam. I love reading people's like world-changing idea, and then if I have to stay all positive, it doesn't work. It's like I want to be curious. I want to like, well, what about this? What about this? So if you want to set up a chat later in the week or next week, and after I've looked over it, I would love to do that with you. And it sounds like we're in the same sphere. There's probably before you popped on when you're having some tech difficulties, my ask when I was going to possibly in the hot seat, I think you could actually help with it, and you might have people that are involved that would be in my alignment. But right now, let's introduce the person who joined. Let him say his name, because I can't even read my brother's name barely. So we'll let you introduce yourself and say your name.
You can hear me?
Yeah.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me here. Actually, to be honest with you, I just jumped in. I found out about this like 3-4 minutes ago. A friend of mine, a colleague, invited me to this event. He said that I should be here because what I'm working on is very similar to what I think Bentley and Adriel. I can't even remember exactly who he said. So I'm just here because I got the call. Real quick, I'll tell you what I'm doing, and if you want to hear more, basically, it's big. This is because there are so many ways to frame this. It's a political party, but it's a nonpartisan political party because it actually represents a whole new system of democracy. And the party is called the International Logic Party. It does not stand for any ideas, and it never will. Instead, we use this new networking platform called Agora, the worldwide stock market of ideas, for each person to build their own political philosophy out of different ideas, to show which ideas are most strongly supported by the people, and then to cross-reference the idea dominance index to people's individual ideological profiles to create a list of political candidates who most closely represent the will of the people. And there's a whole funding aspect that's involved. There's so much more to this, but the whole point of this system is that we actually use it in our citizen assemblies. It's a way of scaling the dynamics of a citizen democracy to unlimited size. So the way that people use this online platform is actually 90% of the time is offline, discussing those ideas in the platform with other people in meetings. But the platform keeps track of what people think, and allows people to explore each other more deeply.
Awesome.
Cool.
Welcome.
Yeah, that definitely sounds similar.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some overlap between our projects. So
and just so we all know, how do you say your first name?
Cesare.
Cesare. Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
Well, Cesare, real quick, I was just gonna. I would introduce you to the One Nation people, but I see you already know them, so that's great. I'd love to find out what that collaboration looks like.
Well, that was how I met Daryl.
Cool. Well, then we finally have introductions out of the way. So I kind of propose that we kind of brainstorm around Jubilee's idea. I don't think we'll have 30 minutes worth of. I think we'll have a little time left over to handle any other aspects as well.
I agree. So for people who don't know, I'm doing an update again. Solution Raising is a hour-long conversation. We've had about 9 or 10 of them on various topics of the economy. So we spend an hour talking. We spend 15 minutes of the hour talking about what that it looks like in that current space, which is where we spend nearly 100% of our time in the regular world, right? Complaining about what is. We then switch over to, which is why it's only 15 minutes. Then we spend 15 minutes talking about what each of us would love to see in the future, like our ideal version of that in the future. They don't need to match. And then we spend half an hour talking about what we could actually create now if we had 10,000 people at $100,000. What is something that would help move this problem powerfully forward for those 10,000 people? And what I'm looking for, those conversations are fun and they're great. I want to actually have a group of people to be able to have solution raisings on solution raisings itself. How do we get, what does a process look like with 10,000 people? And that's where Raymond, I was like, yes, all about the money and the power and those dynamics and that kind of stuff too, is like the idea of raising it from the bottom is that the more people feel they're involved in it, the more they're willing to put up with risk, like real risk in that vulnerability and that transparency of like, oh wait, this isn't going right. We don't have enough money. How do we get more money and doing that? So I'm looking for a few people who want to meet weekly to talk about, to either have a one-off solution raising on solution raising is like the bare minimum I want. But what I would love is a group of people who are willing to meet every week for an hour to have the conversation about what does that look like to create with 10,000 people? What could it look like? And then start and actually improve the process.
So does anyone have any suggestions? And Jubilee, just to be clear, I know of several like tools and stuff to kind of help build those or processes to look at, but you're specifically looking for people that are interested to kind of go through that process with you. So
yeah, I mean, tools are great, but it, like everything, nothing quite is the tool you need 100%, right? So it's about like, what does the process look like? And then if we have 10,000 people, we can create our own tool. That's not a problem. It can be perfect for what we need it to be, and then continually improve. It's about like, how can we use Zoom and Facebook and the things that already exist? How do we have a TV show that 10,000 people watch? Like, what, as one of the 10,000, what would we want it to be? As one of the, 5 that are in the center, what do we want it to be? Like, just having those conversations and creating that, so that then there is a way to create something. Because once there's a way to create something with 10,000 people and $100,000, then we can do it in every single sector and continually keep improving all of them and creating them together. So that's what I'm focusing on.
Cool. Well, I have very specific proposal around something that pretty much could look just like that, and just need to have it torn apart. So.
All right, that is your, okay, so yeah, perfect, awesome. Yeah. Which is my jam, having conversations with one-off conversations on other people's projects and my project, and our projects are so in alignment that yes, there's no way something doesn't come out of it for both of us. Like, we have to try to fail at that, like Adriel has said before, like try to fail at not having any generation come out of that conversation.
Right.
Yeah.
So I could just give a really brief overview of how I see it, if you want.
Yeah, if that's possible, absolutely.
Sure. So the object is certainly, like you said, to have it come or originate from the bottom up, and like so individuals and with ideas would present their ideas. They would we'd create an environment where they can form teams around those ideas. I have a process, something I call a collective foundational document. It's not quite a process, right? It's a protocol. It's protocol.love defines the output you would want from that process that you can record on the holochains. But the process to get there isn't my specialty. I've walked many groups through a process, but I am by no means like a group facilitator, super empathic kind of space holder guy. So from individual ideas, something like almost what you're doing here with individual pitches, kind of like give minute pitches. Let's decide what we want to work on. Let's decide who was interested in working with you permanently. Let's help you do a collective foundational document. Let's get that registered on the protocol.love browser is what I would see it as, right? It's just this browser that you can give it holotrain app addresses, and it'll eventually crawl and find all the connections between all the organizations and all the people and all the things. For anybody using protocol.love. So you get it it's registered there so people can find you. And then the plan, everything you do is completely transparent. Every single decision that gets made, every currency transaction, everything I propose is based on different concepts of currencies, which are just metrics in the flow of exchange. We get to see all that, and we see what's working. This is very much about ultimately identifying the type of ways people are working together that are proving to have the most positive impact. And what is positive impact? We don't even get to, like, if we even tried to centrally determine what positive impact, I think we're going down a game A type road, right? Everybody gets to talk about what impact is for them as well. What does impact mean to me? Well, I can create a currency that identifies impact that I see other organizations or people having, and I can assign that to their digital ID. Now, if I'm the only one who cares about that particular impact, then it's not going to mean much in the world. But if it turns out that other people are saying, yeah, that I'm being impacted in that way, I think that's an important flow to use, then these impact currencies start to have some meaning in the world. And so everything is completely organic. And of course, the ultimate of that is holochain, which is by nature unenclosable, meaning it cannot be centralized. Like even Bitcoin and Ethereum, all these wonderful blockchain projects, the miners actually do control the blockchain. And so right now, if the 3 biggest Bitcoin mining networks merge, they would control the Bitcoin blockchain. Of course, I'm sure there'd be some backlash and that wouldn't last long. But the point is, it is centralizable. It is controllable, despite what everybody, despite what it touts. So Holochain solved that problem and also solved the scalability issues and the power consumption issues and everything all along the way. And that essentially they did by looking at how nature works in terms of information storage and not how computer systems behind data walls work, which is the way we've done everything so far since the birth of the internet for the last 20 years. So yeah, it's a completely open environment where everybody can spawn what's important to them, and then we look for the connections, and then certain projects should take on a life. Ecosystems should form, relationships between entities should form, central governance may form at various levels where there's complete agreement from the various entities. Let's watch all that happen. Let's see what people actually do when they're actually free to do whatever, to form a society however they want. And anyway, I rambled on, but
no, that sounds like some exciting stuff down the line. I was writing notes because I just had a conversation. I missed this last Saturday because I don't know who just dropped off. Drill just left. Oh, he left on purpose. So Shiloh could go in. I was like, wait, what's going on? Where was I? Oh, the thing I missed for last time was talking to someone from the DAO stack about their project, the Common, coming out. That's about it's because what you just described is concentrating on the output, and then you're forming it around it. And theirs is concentrated on the problem that you're then they're actually very different, but very similar at the same time. And so it's great because there you can, depending on your personality, which one do you want? Do you want to concentrate around the outcome, or do you want to concentrate around the problem? And I'm concentrating on the process of how do you actually create something with 10,000 people? What can that look like without having the tech capability? And so that there are these powerful things in the pipeline coming down the line, because like everything's possible once we have that technology and enough people to create projects with, right? So I'm very excited that it happens. And like I said, let's set up a chance to talk about, and I'll have a chance to look at the protocol.love, and I'm getting more and more excited about Holochain and DAO Stack just existing, which, yeah.
Yeah, I've worked closely with the DAO Stack guys, and that's an interesting approach, like a way you're looking at it. I like that. And the other thing I want to say is, like the fact that we don't need any tech tools right now. Vulnerable transparency is something we can embody now. We don't need any tools, and that's what I really love about the approach I'm taking. Because the second we have a tool and it's behind any kind of data wall, or even on Ethereum to a much lesser extent, but yes, we are off and running, and I want to be able to build interfaces for the organizations as they need them.
All right, perfect. Thank you. And so I think what I'm okay if someone else wants to take the hot seat. What I plan on doing for the next week is I'm going to write up something for the Game B regular Facebook page asking like, hey, here's the time I want to do it. Is there anyone else available who wants to meet? And I'm also going to set up a time to meet with Raymond. I think and I want to do that first. I actually want to have the conversation with you first, because I feel like that's more generative of I don't know, like I feel like something will come out of it that then I can write up and put to Game B and ask an actual ask of like, here's the time, here's the space, here's what we're doing, who wants to come and participate? Again, as a one-off or weekly. I'll try the weekly. And then if I get crickets, I'll try a one-off. Awesome. And welcome, Shiloh. Do you want to give your update for today, or you can just jump in when you feel like it, either or?
I have another call I'm waiting for, but I was listening in, and I was just wondering, for one thing, is it Matthias? I was listening about your call yesterday.
Matthias, yes.
Matthias. Your mapping call sounded really good, and I was wondering if it was recorded and if I could watch.
Yes. Hunter did record everything. Apart from maybe the first 10 minutes of the second meeting. And he promised to put it online somewhere, which I don't think he already did, but he will.
Okay, cool.
So it's going to be online, everything.
I was kind of curious, was anybody in the conversation from Holochain on the mapping?
No, just mapping the brain, and I think both the brain, BRA, and the other brain. So there are two of them, apparently.
Okay. Raymond, I loved what you're saying. I'm really interested in holochain and how well they can map things, especially this connectivity. So I was wondering if maybe you could comment on that, how holochain actually is a way of mapping. And maybe I'm totally wrong, but I feel like it's the best so far of making connections and showing the connectivity of different things, but also being decentralized, not through a main channel. And I will mute.
Yeah, holochain is a fully distributed application development ecosystem. So it uses BitTorrent technology ultimately to store data. So all the nodes have little bits and pieces of the data all throughout the network. It's not any one central place, and there is no one central ultimate version of the data at all. Every node has a different version of the data, a different view on data, just like it is in nature, Einsteinian reality, you know. But it's really easy, just like we all have 100% different view of the universe, we can build consensus around all kinds of things. And that's the way nature works. That's the way nature deals with information. So information that's not accessed as much gets put way back in a corner of our brain or of our species brain. And when we need to access it, it is there and we can pull it out. So that's exactly the way holochain works. And again, that protocol has been being designed, operating successfully for 20 solid years on BitTorrent. But so now we can take application databases, right? Live real-time application databases, and have them stored on a BitTorrent type protocol. So in terms of, so it's the ultimate meta. There is no, so you could be running a holochain app across the internet with you and your friends, and nobody else would even know it exists or really have any way of finding that it exists unless they have a really sophisticated packet sniffer on really big pipes. You know, they could see, oh, there's a holochain protocol. We saw that, and that node is talking to that node. Now you can map it out. But so the trick with things like registries and directories and things is you have to have a decentralized, centralized, you know, registry. And so somebody could create that. Somebody could say, hey, so in other words, protocol.love will probably participate like as an organization in helping registries exist for people who want their organization and their vulnerable transparency of their organization to be known to the world. But I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, I think so. It's hard. It's such a deep, expansive topic to talk about. The way it's just so broad, and it can have so many different ways to do it. It's just like keep hearing it over and over and over helps. And I wanted to say hi to Cesare. I've seen him before on Radish 24, I think the 24-hour block party. So just hi, Cesare. Thank you, Raymond.
I just wanted to ask, where do we get 10,000 people? And I'm asking specifically because I know there are tens of thousands of people interested in broadly speaking, in what we are interested in, as in fixing the world and stuff. And to the left. But they seem to be working in groups, and they hear about themselves and each other. They are mostly aware of each other's existence, but not necessarily willing to work together to create something like one, even to create a network of exchange of information and possibly value. So this is what I've been seeing for past, I'm not sure how many years. I've been looking at this this space, which now we can call Game B. But there's lots of people and lots of groups, but not a lot of cooperation between them. So I'm really curious if the protocol that love can somehow change it and can proactively go out and connect forcefully if need be, but just connect everyone together. So at least they are fully aware of the big picture. instead of, like, for example, the Venus project is doing their thing. There is the Zeitgeist movement, slightly different, based on the same idea, but yeah. But given how many people and groups would like to do something and how little is actually done, so there is something there, right? If it can all be connected.
Yeah, that's absolutely the problem I've been set out to solve, because I've been involved in the Venus project since way back in the day, and all the other groups and things like that. I'm living in intentional community now. I consult with intentional communities on designing their organizations in this way, and I'm building. What I'm doing in the world is building a network of intentional communities and a fleet of vehicles to move goods and people between them, and protocol.love and some kind of tech is also a necessary step for that. So the idea is definitely bringing vulnerable transparency. And so you touched on something there, which was by force, it's obviously if we do say that anyway, we're back to game A. So there's this, so vulnerable transparency is always a choice, and it always takes extra effort, really. And so there's nothing we could ever do to stop people from from resisting vulnerable transparency. Like, there will be many people and many organizations who resist it for various reasons. I don't know. Well, I don't even know all the reasons, right? But it's the second we become punitive about that, game over. Game B ended. We just went back to game A. So it's like it should be. Here's my theory: is that if we get enough data into the holochains, right, we can actually do analysis on that data, and we can algorithmically identify rivalrous behavior. And if we see the rivalrous behavior happening, we can say, hey, so this is not working as efficiently for you guys, even the rivalrous actors. You're actually not winning as big as you could be winning if we created an all win for everybody else. And like, if we actually have the data to identify that, and somebody can just write the algorithm that solves it, why would anybody say no? I mean, so that's the theory of the game B perfect world, right?
Which I think is like, it's like how to find the first 10,000. And we are fractured all over the place. And I think that's exactly how it's supposed to be right now. Like, there isn't, DAO Stack and Holochain aren't supposed to come together and create one right now. They're supposed to, and they're not really, like, the fact that they exist separately it fractures the people involved, but it gives us resiliency in a different way. If one of them falls, we have the other one, and vice versa. There's new ones coming out as well. At a point, I think we come together. At a point, it doesn't make it, when you see that data that our disconnection costs us efficiency and costs us something, then we come together. But how do we find 10,000 people now is, I think you don't need 10,000 people on Holochain or DAO Stack. They need 10,000 people on the products they're making, right? On the systems they're making. And so if being involved at that level, like Amazon does not have a problem finding 10,000 people. Facebook does not have a problem finding 10,000 people. So having someone have like finding 10,000 viewers, finding 10,000 customers, that is like the level of 10,000 I'm looking for. And then how much do you want to be involved? If 10,000 people are funding it and co-creating solutions, how much does that co-creation look like? For me, it looks like I want to have the conversations. I want to have hours and hours of conversations if needed so that we can get to that. But for other people, it's just like, yeah, solve my education. Here's $10. No problem. And they're not going to they can't then come back after and be like, wait, no, that wasn't what I wanted for the education. Right, you weren't involved in it. So does that in any way answer your question? That like we give them something from day one. And right now, it's not for 10,000 people.
Okay, just wanted to add that I would not ever expect for everything to come together into one being, because that seems to be a mistake some people or groups make, that they are willing to cooperate as long as whoever joins is going to like wear the same colors. Here are our values, and please come to us and work together as long as you're willing to you know what I mean, I think. So no, I wouldn't expect like DAO Stack and Holochain to become one. but cooperation between all the entities, despite the exact sets of values they all adhere to. I mean, obviously there are some common values that are good and so on, but I wouldn't expect all of the actors to play along the same rules, but I would expect all the actors to be cooperating in the same direction. I'm not sure if I'm making it clear, but
yeah, I think it's crystal clear, and I can maybe even make it clear. I think what you're saying is, that if so, for instance, if Holochain decided to that they wanted to operate completely transparently, vulnerably transparent, and they thought that they could use the protocol standard to do that, they could choose to do that. If DAOstack as an organization wanted to operate with vulnerable transparency and chose protocol.love to publish that vulnerable transparency, right? We're working together, just like that, right? I love the co-opetition councils. That's exactly what it is. When you identify rivalrous behavior, like there's nothing wrong with competition. I think that's a super important distinction. If we are competing to make the best all-win planet for all life, like rock on. But the second we get rivalrous and we want to win over the other parties, you know.
And that's the difference. Is like for me as a user, I don't want to have to log into DAOstack's version of Common and your version of this. I will in the beginning, absolutely, because I care more that this exists, but I'm not your average everyday user. And so someone being on one is going to cost the other one. I think there's ways, centralization feels like the wrong word, but like there's data out there, there's people out there, and the more we can bring those together in a way that feels safe and usable to the people in the data. Like if there's one pool of data, but every project and everyone can use it because it's decentralized. If I'm in control of that data, no one's going to trust it. No one's going to use that as the common place. So the more we have a say in what's happening there, what's stored there, what can it be used for, then there's efficiency that isn't quite competition cooperation, and it builds on itself. Like when DAOstack and Holochain need to come together, they will come together. And otherwise, and they're more likely to come together than, let's say, Amazon and Facebook, right? Like we're in competition, because you can see there's still going to be the ego, the thing that all of the reasons we need vulnerable transparency, right? All of the ickiness that like power and money and everything brings up, it's going to exist. It's going to be there. But yeah, I don't remember where I was going with that, but I liked what Raymond was saying.
Yeah, it's that icky stuff that doesn't get talked about that's actually resisting the tech to merge, right? Because everybody's got their little attachments. I certainly do. I'm heavily invested in Holochain. I want Holochain to win, but I wanted Holochain to win long before I was heavily invested. But yeah, it's always there. It's always there.
I think we do have a coordination problem, but I don't have any solutions for it. Just because you do see someone says, "Oh yeah, so I want to create a a Facebook alternative," and there's like 20 people working on that. We have 2 or 3 people trying to build the same thing, which isn't necessarily bad, but it just seems that they're just not aware of each other. And then when they are, then by the time you're aware of each other, you have such different concepts on how to implement it that it's hard to switch gears. I'm with a group called the Canonical Debate Lab, and I guess there's probably about 7 people in it now, and we each have our own debate software. So yeah, although we're learning together, we are in co-opetition council together. So we meet once a week and we talk about what's happening in each other's projects and learn from each other. So we've started to find that, but it took us like 4 or 5 years. We've each been working on this for 5 years before we found each other, finally. So
that's why it was very useful to have this meeting yesterday and on Thursday about mapping tools, because it seems like for everyone who joins the mapping group, everyone has its own favorite and a tool that they worked on, and yeah, this is mine, and I like it, so it's better than everything else. I'm joking, but yeah, there are way too many tools.
yeah, Adriel's posting in the private chat about sessions recorded. Yes, we have a right now it's a private link with it, make it public. So I'll send you the link to the YouTube playlist, and you can look at them. And I'll just post it in Game B in case anyone wants to see it. But I mean in Game B projects. But yeah, it's very similar to this, just with a focus in a slightly different area. But they're all people trying to make the world a better place as well.
I could take up more space and tell Jubilee and Marcius how Holochain solves both the problems you were talking about. But we could also all learn about that.
Which I think, like, for me in Game B, this idea, and it happens a lot, and it's just like sitting with it and being like, eventually it will solve itself, is like, oh yeah, my thing solves your thing, and your thing solves, like, but the fact they all exist and everyone's feeding off the same pool of people and resources mean that really none of them exist. It's, you know, that it's like, yeah, put your project on my website and put your project on my website, but one of them will be successful, but the more it's dissipated everywhere, then really like none of them are successful. And that piece of it is something we have to figure out eventually from the bottom up, or from technology facilitates it. But it can't be something that's like commandeered through technology. Like, I say this is the one. It's like it has to emerge as the one, which is hard. It's hard. Ego, feelings, emotions. Yeah. I think you can just unmute yourself and then talk.
Okay, I'm still just trying to piece together what's going on here. So everyone here has kind of their own project that they're working on, and right? Am I right so far? And are these like private ventures, or are these like civic projects, political projects? Like I said, all right. Are these for profit, non-for-profit in general, or like
all of the above?
Yes.
Probably the theme that is consistent is that they are all trying to make the world a better place, and it's usually very Game B specific. So try and be anti-rivalrous, resilient, and those philosophies.
And all of these are based on some kind of technology, I take it? All of these?
Not
involved-
necessarily.
What's that?
Not necessarily.
None of that. But general, but it seems general. Jubilee, could you summarize, like, in just a few words again? Sorry, I showed up late, but can you tell me? So it sounds like you want 10,000 people and $100,000 to do something, right? Is that?
Well, if you have 10,000 people, you have $100,000 is the idea.
Yeah.
Because 10,000 people put in $10, you have 100,000. So it's about finding 10,000 people who have a common problem. We're starting with a problem that's common for all of us, like food. But finding, yes, what is a process that it could look like for 10,000 people to create something, like a food app that works for them, right? That isn't my food app I'm selling to 10,000. I'm creating and then selling it to 10,000 people. It's how do you actually work through a process to see, does this thing we're creating meet the need, most of the needs, most of the time of these 10,000? And so that is what I am looking on, is to find people to talk about that process, not looking for 10,000 people. If you handed me 10,000 people, I wouldn't know what to do with them. It's having a smaller group of people have the conversation of what could it look like for 10,000 people to have a conversation, for 10,000 people to have input in, here are the features and benefits we want in this app, right? Here's what I need it to have. And then using that pooled money to pay people to actually work through Game A model of making the app, right? And like, then we own it together, but people are actually paid to do the actual coding. But the process, like I was involved in a community where we did a similar process to create an intentional community. We decided everything we would want on this land. Well, there's priorities. We don't have a swimming pool now. Like, no, we didn't really want a swimming pool. There's no trampoline for legit, like we went through everything we would want. And then we list like, what is the order? Well, we need bathroom and then kitchen. And then, you know, we can get downwards and there's a shop and a kid's room and a teen room. Like there's things that made it in and things that didn't based on finances, based on how much we care about it. And that same process can be used in technology where then I don't have to create something and sell it to you. You're involved in the process of creation, so you already own it. Like at a soul emotions level, you want this to succeed. You want to use it. And you're putting $10 into the pool to solve that. Does that make a little more sense as to what I'm doing, what we're doing here?
Just click for me, Jubilee. I can't wait to talk.
All right. Okay. Awesome, Raven.
Thanks.
And as for what we're doing here, I feel like you came to this not through Game B. Do you know what Game B is? Good. We've been involved and we don't necessarily know what it is. But Game A is basically history up to this point. Capitalism, everything, all of it. Communism, all of it. And we know it's not sustainable. We know it's self-terminating. So Game B is the idea that there's something we need. A Game B, we need a next thing that's going to be infinite, that is an infinite game, that is omniwin, that is anti-rivalrous, where the more people involved, the more benefit we all have. And we all have, so in the Game B space, there's a lot of people with projects, a lot of people with ideas on how we do that and their piece of it. And so Together Tech and the projects, the Facebook projects for Game B, is about bringing those project holders together to find those omniwin solutions from here, where we're not willing to give up our projects, we're not necessarily willing to come together and collaborate on a new project besides holding our projects and doing the meta project of how can we support each other. Right now, it looks like these calls in the Facebook group, we might create the technology that actually does it, or someone else will, and then we'll use it and create the next thing and the next thing.
It's amazing how difficult it is to for
Sorry,
me to...
Adriel is not able to. There's a to add your project to the Together Tech prototype, which is on NAC and is posted in the Game B Facebook group several times of, yes, put your project on there so we can coordinate. It's the closest thing we have at the moment.
And that'll give you a feeling of what all of our projects are.
Yeah. And sorry, Matthias, for cutting you off. Continue.
No, that wasn't clear to me. How do you share this information? There is in a Facebook group? Yes?
Did you not come to here through? Yes, that Facebook group in there is the URL. That is a good. Adriel, what's the URL? Can you type it in the comments? And then we book in the private chat. Even better.
It is a bit hard to find in the Facebook.
So it's in the private chat, and you can copy and paste it from there. And I'm also going to post it in comments for other people that we're talking about and put it up on the screen.
And we're going to make that more visible. It's kind of a prototype, but once again, we're creating things that may already exist. But yeah,
but using NAC to figure out what we need that isn't available and what already exists. And my guess is both Holochain and DAO Stack have something for this space as well, but since they don't exist yet. Yeah, so that's that. So we're at the end of the hour. So we do this every Saturday. We have a roundtable at this time, 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And then next week we have this and we have a 2 p.m. Are we doing the 2 p.m. slot next week? There might be two. We're definitely doing this next week. And then there might also be the 2 p.m. No.
I think it'd be better on, I'll post it. I think it's better written than verbal. So.
Gotcha. That makes sense. So yeah, we do this every Saturday, and then Fridays we switch back and forth between having a board meeting for the Meta project and having an idea cafe, which is people bringing their projects and us answering questions to show the commonality of our projects, right? Like we all have to deal with marketing, we all have to deal with financing, we all have to deal with this like transparency and vulnerability, even if it's not like every business has to deal with that, even if they don't have any idea they have to deal with that, right? So we're answering questions about it. So next week is an idea cafe, which we have yet to decide on the question, I believe, that we were going to yesterday. We didn't actually, I think, get around to it, but there'll be a question. That's basically Together Tech is Fridays at noon Pacific Standard Times and 9 a.m. on Saturdays to do the roundtables. And then how you find the links to come and participate is the Facebook group, Game B projects. Most of us are together, or the Facebook groups Together Tech is the URL, and I clearly butchered that. But does anyone have any closing statements for the roundtable before we say goodbye to YouTube and Facebook? All right.
How can I'd like to catch up and maybe chat with y'all, so you guys, everyone is here in the group, easy to find, right, in the Facebook group. All right.
Yeah, I think we're all participating in there, so we'll see what you post.
All right.
Yeah.
Most of us are following it.
And you can see the members and friend any of them, or I mean, I can't guarantee they'll friend you back, but I will.
Actually, I have a question, please. For the project raising, as I understand it. I think I would really like that 1 hour hot seat thing to be happening at
Okay.
some point soon.
Mhm.
Because I have something I was working on. It kind of is along these lines that we just discussed, and I really would use and like some feedback about if the direction I'm going in makes any sense. So the
Yeah,
question is
so
how to schedule
we
one.
were doing solution raisings on Saturdays. They were during this time period, and we've removed that because we're now doing this. But anyone can put up in the Game B that Facebook group a project raising. So pick a time, put it up, say, here's what I want to concentrate on. Here's what I'm doing. I would love people to come and give me an hour of their time to concentrate on it. It's a little bit of that transparent vulnerability. We don't know if it's going to work or not. We don't know whether people are going to show up. But that is right now that is something we want to offer, but how we offer that in that space without taking up the same hour every week and committing to it, to have someone say, yes, I'm available at X time, and then have people come on. So you're more than welcome to post in the Facebook group that you want a project raising, what you want it on, and the time, or you can do a doodle poll if you have several times that you want it.
And that 2 o'clock Pacific Saturday is probably a good time because we have used that. It's open right now. But any time you want. We'll
It's a
just see
week
who can
from
find
now, so I will have more time to like fix some bugs.
Yeah, we look forward to it.
So if you put it on for 2 p.m. next Saturday would be perfect, and then like some of us will probably be there, and then other people might be there as well. And one of us will be either Adriel or I will be there to do the StreamYard part of it for you. Cool.
Right.
So I just committed him one or the other. I'll be here if he's not. All right.
I'd like to comment real quick about this whole 10,000 people. It sounds like you want an army, and it costs money to have an army. Like you have to pay a lot of money for a standing army, and so unless you have an immediate, usually, you might not actually. It's not efficient to have a standing army. Usually, armies. I mean, unless you're a big state and you have a big budget.
In no way are they a standing army. In no way. In fact, they're like, no, they're not a standing army. We're not feeding them and clothing them and housing them so that they're on standby so that they can work on this. That's the point, is the 10,000 people aren't working on it. It's 5 people working on it. It's 10 people working on it. But it's 10,000 people giving their input. 10,000 people voting for what they want in that, right? So they're feeding, clothing themselves, and how do we create the apps that we can feed and clothe ourselves for more? That is what they're getting out of it. They're getting that, like, they don't need to hand themselves over to their government to put their lives on the line for their country. They're, hey, how much of this do I want to give myself? And is it an hour a month? Is it an hour a day? It's their choice how much they want to give, except when we need full-time coders, then we need to pay them. So that's the idea of the 10,000 isn't marching to solve the problem. It's 10,000 people putting their input in and putting $10 in from their work that they do in the real, in game A or game B, wherever they're doing their work, and then having a say in it. And then there's a much tinier group probably that's involved in more of a full-time job. Does that answer? We can have a question. Definitely reach out if you have more questions and I can answer them, or we can have a video chat ourselves about it. I'm totally down with that. But it's been an hour, so let's say goodbye to YouTube and Facebook, and I have to go see what my kid's been up to in the last hour. So bye, everybody. Bye.